So a couple of weeks ago in a Crew 9 meeting, we were discussing free kick plays. And we got into participation by R on a free kick. When is it legal or illegal? And we were discussing when is a free kick out of bounds or not. And after the meeting, my crew chief, John Hathaway, politely voluntold me to put a little presentation together. And so I made this little video, and now it's being shared with all of you. So if you have any questions about anything I say in this video or show you in this video, just know that Jim Cavan is somewhere below the screen, ready to answer any and all of those questions. Okay, so we're talking about R and free kicks today, specifically participation by R on a free kick. When is it legal or illegal? We're going to do that. Then we're going to talk about free kicks, what makes a free kick out of bounds or not. And then at the end, we are going to synthesize the two together. Okay, so first, let's talk about participation by R on a free kick. When is it legal or illegal? Let's see what the rule book says. Rule 9.6.2. No player shall intentionally go out of bounds during the down, and A, return to the field, B, intentionally touch the ball, C, influence the play, or D, otherwise participate. All right, so D is kind of a catch-all that really covers everything, but we have A, B, and C there to help us. All right, so the key part of this rule for us is the word intentionally. No player shall intentionally go out of bounds. This doesn't cover players who go out of bounds accidentally. This rule only covers players who go out of bounds intentionally. And for the purposes of our discussion regarding the casebook play last week, if you go out of bounds intentionally and then intentionally touch the ball, you have committed a foul for illegal participation, which is a 15-yard foul. As a live ball foul enforced from the basic spot. The enforcement we'll talk about in a minute. The key here is, again, it only applies to the intentional act of going out of bounds, which means that we have to judge intent. Okay, we have to figure out whether the player intentionally or accidentally went out of bounds. All right. So your next question might be, well, logical question. What about players who accidentally go out of bounds? What do we do about players who go out of bounds not on purpose? All right. Well, luckily, Rule 9.6.1 covers that. All right. It says, prior to a change of possession or when there is no change of possession, no player of A or K shall go out of bounds and return to the field during the down unless blocked out of bounds by an opponent. Then the other sentence is stuff that we know that is really not pertinent for this specific discussion. The important thing to us about this rule is that it says if A or K accidentally goes out of bounds, right? Unless they're blocked out of bounds by an opponent, if they come back in, it's a foul, okay? It's a penalty for illegal participation, 15 yards, live ball foul, basic spot, okay? But again, the key here is that it only covers players of A or K. It says nothing about players on B or R, okay? The rule only applies to A or K players. So if an A or K player goes out of bounds, doesn't matter whether it's intentionally or accidentally, unless they're blocked out of bounds and immediately return, it's going to be a foul, okay? It's going to be a foul. But what about R players or B players? There's nothing in this rule that says B players or R players can't go out of bounds, okay? Nothing in the rule book about B or R players going out of bounds accidentally and further participating. All right. If a B or R player goes out of bounds on accident and then participates, it is not a foul. Okay. So what do we know? What have we learned? All right. First, intentionally going out of bounds, any player, ABKR, intentionally goes out of bounds and then participates, it's a foul. Okay. Second thing we know, if A or K accidentally go out of bounds and then later participate, unless they're blocked out of bounds and immediately return, if A or K accidentally go out of bounds and later participate, that's a foul for illegal participation. We also know that B or R can accidentally go out of bounds. And if they accidentally go out of bounds and return, it's not a foul. Okay. So there you go. This is what we know so far. All right. So let's look at some plays. Okay. Now, these are very high-tech plays. Use a lot of money to get these done, as you'll be able to see very quickly. Also, the star of these plays
is incredibly handsome. So please don't be distracted by that. All right. So on Monday afternoon, I went out to the parking lot of our building and I made a video. All right. So there's Manny Pacquiao looking down upon us. And we're gonna have to use our imagination here for these videos. Okay. This is going to be a football field, the parking lot. All right. The left-hand side is going to be out of bounds. The right-hand side is going to be inbounds. And the parking stripe is going to be the sideline. There you go. Okay. Left-hand side, left of the parking stripe out of bounds, right of the parking stripe inbounds. And the stripe is the sideline. Okay. Now, all these plays are going to be kicks that are kicked by the kicking team. The kicker's going to be to the right off your screen and behind you. And we can just imagine that Manny Pacquiao is in our end zone. Okay. So we have a kick play, and the kick is traveling toward the sideline. And let's see what this R player does and determine what the foul is if there is one. All right. So had a lot of stuff going on there. Go back and watch it again. All right. So looks like we get on our player stepping out of bounds. We have to judge whether or not that stepping out of bounds was intentional or not. And we can watch it again in slow-mo and probably get a better view of it. Here he comes. All right. So the player purposely looks towards the sideline and makes sure his foot is out of bounds and then goes to cleanly possess the ball. What an amazing catch that was. Okay. So the R player looked towards the sideline, intentionally stepped out of bounds, and then caught the kick. All right. So what's the ruling on that got to be? Well, we got to figure out, did the player go out of bounds intentionally? And this video showed that he did. So yes, the player did go out of bounds intentionally. And so by rule, we have a foul for illegal participation. Okay, that's rule 9.6.2. Player went out of bounds intentionally and then participated. Here, intentionally touching the ball. Okay. Now, what's the enforcement going to be? We know it's 15 yards, and this is enforcing the basic spots. Now I got to figure what the basic spot is. Okay. So we have to figure out, this is a loose ball play or a running play. All right. So we know that a kick play is a loose ball play until it is possessed by R. All right. And the foul occurs as soon as R touches it. So if you notice in the play, the R player kind of fumbled the ball a little bit. All right. So made it a little more clear. But the idea here is that touching precedes possession. And since the foul occurs when the ball is touched, not possessed, we still have a loose ball play. So enforcement is going to be from the previous spot. All right. Because we know on free kicks, it's a loose ball play. Enforcement spot's the previous spot. So we can either go 15 yards up and re-kick, or we can give R the ball at the succeeding spot. Okay. Again, a kick is a loose ball play until a player possesses the ball, and the foul occurs when the ball is touched, not possessed, and touching precedes catching, which precedes possession. Okay. So there you go.
All right. So this is the casebook play we talked about last week, 962C. If you want to see it, it is the exact same play that we just talked about.
All right. Now, let's get into free kicks out of bounds. All right. So what's the deal with those? Let's look at the rule. All right. Rule 619, a free kick shall not be kicked out of bounds between the goal lines untouched inbounds by R. Okay. And the important part of this rule for us in this discussion is going to be the phrase untouched inbounds by R. So if R is inbounds and touches the ball, it's not a foul. If R is out of bounds when they first touch the ball, it's going to be a foul because the free kick can't be kicked out of bounds untouched inbounds by R. Okay. So again, if the ball is touched inbounds by R, there is no foul. If it's touched out of bounds by R, there is going to be a foul. And they're the penalty enforcements that we all know that I'm not going to go over because we know those. Okay.
All right, more rules. 229.1. A player or other person is out of bounds when any part of that person is touching anything other than another player, game official, that's on or outside the sideline or in line. Making this a little more easier. A player is out of bounds when they are touching out of bounds, which is something we probably already know, but this is reinforcement. All right. So person's out of bounds when they are touching out of bounds. A loose ball is out of bounds when it touches anything, including a player, game official, that's out of bounds. So a loose ball is out of bounds and is touching anything that is out of bounds. So if a loose ball is touching a player out of bounds, that means the ball is out of bounds. Okay. It doesn't matter if the player or ball has crossed the sideline plane. For the player to be out of bounds, they have to be touching out of bounds. And for the loose ball to be out of bounds, it can be touching out of bounds, or it can be touching a player who is out of bounds. All right. So it doesn't matter if the ball is across the sideline plane or not. What matters are for the loose ball, it's going to be out of bounds if it is touching a player that is out of bounds.
Let's look at play number 2.
All right. So this one I actually had to go out and do the next day because the first time I did it, it didn't work the way I wanted it to. But the idea is the same. Right of the parking stripe is inbounds, left is out of bounds, and the parking stripe is the sideline. And we have a kick traveling towards the sideline, about to be out of bounds. And let's see what happens here. All right. Looked like we had some amazing athleticism on that play. Looked like our player jumped to catch the ball. Let's look at it in slow-mo to figure out exactly what happened. We have a foot that is down inbounds. The last thing the player touches before he jumps is inbounds. So we have our player jumping from inbounds, jumping up to catch the ball. And there you go. We have a catch made before he lands out of bounds. All right. So a player jumping from inbounds, catching the ball in the air, and landing out of bounds. So what do we have here?
So what's the ruling on this play? We have to figure out, is the ball out of bounds when R touches it? Okay. Well, was R inbounds or out of bounds when R touched it? And the answer is no. R jumped from inbounds and had not yet landed out of bounds. So the ball was touched inbounds by an R player. Since R touched the ball inbounds, the ball is in bounds. And since the ball is in bounds, this is not a foul. Okay. Again, the ball was touched by an inbound R player. Therefore, this is not a foul. It's going to be R's ball at the succeeding spot, which is the spot where the ball crosses the sideline plane. Okay. All right. Play number 3. Here we go. Okay. Same as before. The left-hand side is out of bounds. The right-hand side is inbounds. And the stripe is going to be the sideline. All right. So we got a kick traveling towards the sideline. So let's see what happens here. All right, we got an R jumping up and catching the ball just like that. All right, let's look at it in slow-mo. All right, we have an R player coming toward the sideline, stepping out of bounds. So the R player is out of bounds. All right, the R player is out of bounds, and then catches the ball. Now the ball has crossed the sideline plane, and I circled it there, but it really doesn't matter. Okay, so the ball has touched the sideline plane, or across sideline plane, that doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is that R is out of bounds. All right. R is out of bounds when they touch the ball. So what's the ruling? R is out of bounds when they touch it. Yes, they are. The ball was touched by an out of bounds player. Therefore, the ball is out of bounds. And since the ball is out of bounds, we have a foul for a free kick out of bounds. Okay. So, if R chooses a 5-yard tack on, Pillars being forced to spot where the ball crosses the sideline plane. That's the enforcement spot, just like it always is on kicks. Okay. The previous 2 plays 2 and 3 that we talked about are in the case book, 619C. All right. Play number 4. This is a fun one. All right. And y'all can get mad at me about this and whatever. Y'all can discuss it. This is why I made a video instead of doing this in the meeting. All right. So here's our play. Here we go. Out of bounds on the left, inbounds on the right. Kick traveling towards the sideline. Let's see what happens. All right. So we have a player. We're covering the kick. Looks like the player's foot is out of bounds. Let's watch it again in slow-mo. Here comes the player. There he is. All right. Foot out of bounds. There you go. catches the ball with a foot out of bounds. Now, the ball did not cross the sideline plane, but as we talked about, it doesn't matter. Okay, so what's the ruling here? Well, in terms of legal participation by R, that doesn't matter because R went out of bounds accidentally, and R can do that. That's not a foul for them. The only question we have is, do we have a foul for a free kick out of bounds? So is the ball out of bounds when R touches it? The ball is touched by R out of bounds. Therefore, the ball is dead as soon as R touches it. Okay. Ball's dead when R touches it, and the ball's out of bounds. Okay. So the ball was out of bounds when R touched it. Since it was touched by an out of bounds player, therefore the ball is out of bounds. And we have a foul for a free kick infraction. Okay. So it doesn't matter if the ball's crossed the plane or not. Fact of the matter is, R has accidentally stepped out of bounds, so not a foul for legal participation. And then an out of bounds R player touched the ball, making the ball out of bounds. And that is a foul for a free kick infraction. Okay.
All right, there you go. That's the video. I hope you enjoyed it.